Hello friends and followers, welcome back to TJ's Modeling Bench. It is time for another What Did You Buy Wednesday. That time we take to show everybody else what we've picked up for our shop and our hobby needs. Doesn't necessarily have to be kits. It can be tools, storage ideas, whatever you've purchased recently to add to and improve your modeling experience. So with that said, let me show you a few things. But before I start showing you what I bought, I have a shop card shout out to make, and I've been sitting on this a little while because quite honestly I forgot, and I'm so sorry. But it's another TJ Mottola, and this is Model T's Scale Workshop. He's got a fairly new YouTube channel. He's got under 150 subscribers right now, but he's got a really nice looking shop. It's similar in shape to the way mine is done, but he's got some nice hardwood cabinets and things in his, and his floor is a little better than mine. But he does some really cool stuff. He's a big Rat Fink fan, so you'll see some of that on there. The one video I just recently was watching, he's got a rear engine dragster, a front engine dragster, and he did a little bit of lathe work. So give him a like and subscribe, go check him out. Pretty cool stuff. Thanks TJ, sorry it took so long. All right, I zoomed back out a little bit with the camera because the first thing I want to show you isn't really something I purchased. These were given out free to the attendees at Nationals this year because, you know, they know that modelers are going to show up and buy a lot of stuff. So they had these huge shopping bags, and I do believe they were sponsored and provided by Squadron, who had their booth in one of the vendor areas. There were two really large vendor areas, and you could put a lot of kits in this thing. So that was very nice of them to offer, and like I said, they were free. I did not go there with the intention of buying a lot of kits. There was one that I really wanted prior to arriving there, but then when I got there, I started looking at the price and then all the add-ons that I wanted to get for it. I kind of backed off a little bit. It was going to be at least half of the budget that I took with me to do all that, and I thought, I probably won't even get to it anytime soon. And I know there's another piece in the works that is a correction for it, so I kind of passed on that for now. But I still ended up with some models. I came away with about 4 of them. And the rest of the stuff that I purchased were things really for the benchtop, tools and paints and that kind of thing. So let me get started, and I'll show you the kits first, and then I'll show you all the ancillary things that I picked up along the way. All right, the first kit that I picked up, and I built one of these, it's been a couple years ago now when I built my Barn Find diorama, and that's a figure from Masterbox Limited. And, you know, because I am an Air Force veteran, that caught my eye, and I thought, yeah, we'll give that a shot. So that is a 1/24 scale figure, if I recall correctly. You know, it doesn't actually, oh yeah, it does. There we go. 1/24 scale. So nothing too difficult there. I mean, the hardest part about doing these is painting them. You know, I've only really got the one that I painted, and she turned out pretty good, but I'm not really a master figure painter, but this will help. The next 2 kits are Automotive, and this one, I always loved this style when it came out. Let's see, this would have been between my sophomore and junior year of high school, I guess. I graduated in '89, so the '87 Chevy Monte Carlo SS. Now I have in my stash also the '83 Hearst Olds, which is a very similar body style to this. Both of these cars, just I always liked them. There was a girl, she was probably a couple years junior to me, an only child, and her dad made pretty good money. He actually bought her one of these for her 16th birthday, brand new, gorgeous car. I don't mind saying I was a little jealous, actually. But anyway, so this is going to then putting into the stash. And the other one that I picked up, so one of the themes for the 2027 IPMS Nationals being held in Huntsville is Talladega. So anything race car that related to, or any, not necessarily race car, but any equipment that related to the Talladega Raceway. And I saw an image of something that kind of turned me onto this idea. So I picked up the 70 Ford Torino, and I'm going to do a little bit more research on it, but I think I can come up with something really good to use this for, to fit that theme of Talladega for next year's IPMS. So stick around for that one for sure. And this piece I picked up, there were several of these in different styles and patterns, and it kind of looked like a cutting mat initially, but this is actually a 3mm acrylic board meant to be used as a display base. And I thought that was pretty cool. So it's almost like an acrylic cutting board for like your kitchen, perhaps. But I thought that'll come in handy at times. Certain vehicles will look really good sitting on top of that. And so along the lines of paints and whatnot, I recently saw, so I use a lot of the Tamiya acrylic paints, which I like them for airbrushing just fine. They're not hard to use. I usually thin them 50-50 with either their X20A thinner or just regular 91% isopropyl alcohol. But as far as brush painting by hand, they're not great. I've been buying some Vallejo paints specifically for doing hand brushing, but I thought, man, I really wish I could use my Tamiya paints since I already have them. I have almost everything in their line, so I hate buying other brands for colors that I already have. But I saw recently on YouTube, or maybe it was on Facebook, but somebody said that the third gen AK thinner, acrylic thinner, works perfectly with the Tamiya acrylics and makes it great for brush painting. So I picked up a bottle of that while I was there. I figured it can't hurt to buy one bottle and give it a shot. So we got that. And then one of the things I don't have in my Tamiya acrylic line, but I have kind of, is a flat clear. So I picked up just a small bottle of the XF86 flat clear. I have the flat base, which does not have the clear carrier in it. It's just the whatever compound they use to get that flat sheen, and then you mix it with whatever. So I've been mixing it with the semi-gloss, but now I have a good flat clear to use right out of the bottle. And another thing I have, but I didn't have this particular color, was the Panaline accent colors. I picked up a bottle of black because I have a dark brown and I have a gray, but I didn't have the black. And I don't really use them a lot because it's an enamel. I'm sometimes hesitant because I use a lot of the acrylic paints and I'm not sure how it's going to react over the top of some of those. So I don't use it a lot, but I do use it on occasion. All right, so the next couple of items are benchtop tools per se. So I like tweezers. I've got a few sets of them. My best one is getting a little bit worn out. I actually dropped it from the bench top in here, and my bench is about 3.5 feet above the floor, and I have just a sub-floor wood base. So it used to be carpet in here. I ripped it up, painted the floor with a white Kilts primer white, and so when they fell point down, and it did bend one tong, and I've straightened it out pretty good, but not as nice as I wanted. But I found some Display tweezers, right? So he's got a little bit of a curve at the end, but they're a fine tip, a very sharp, fine tip, and I like that. The other one I picked up is also Display, but this set has an anti-static pointed tip on it. And I thought, well, that might be good, you know, using photo etch and things. Sometimes you get it in position, and then when you go to pull away from it, it stays on whatever it is you're using to put it into place. So I thought that might work better in that instance with some PE. And then when you make a purchase with Squadron, or if you made a purchase with Squadron at the show, I think over a certain dollar amount, which wasn't much, you got to pick a sanding stick of your choice. They had several available. This one is a coarse, and then I went back a second time and bought something else, so I ended up picking up the tri-grade. So there's a coarse, a medium, and a fine all in one. And I really like these Squadron sanding sticks. I have some old ones in a drawer back here. I've actually had them for 25 years now. A few of them could probably be thrown away. They're pretty well worn out, but I like them. They're good to have. So we have those. And then the other thing was some paint brushes. These were actually, I didn't pay for these. These were an add-on when I bought some paints, and I'll show you those here in just a few minutes. I'd never seen these before, and I don't know, I could probably make do with something else just as well, but I saw them and thought, what the heck, for $7, I'll pick them up. But they are Tamiya polishing compound sponges. So I thought, you know, in the future, when I get ready to do some polishing with the Tamiya compounds that I have, we'll try to use some of these for application. So, like I said, I could probably do just as well with something I already have, but I thought I'd give them a shot and see how well they worked for that. And then I also picked up this airbrush stencil. So a lot of the aircraft builders will know these get used quite a bit to do like an underlayment, almost like you're pre-shading prior to your color coats going down. And it helps to modulate those colors a little bit, gives you, depending on what you're using as the undercoat, you're pre-shading and how heavily you lay the other color on top. But it'll give you that slightly varying tone of your final color. And I've tried to do this. You can do it with a 3M Scotch pad. You can kind of rip the layers apart and create something to that effect. And I've done that before, and it's okay. But I kind of like having something like this on the bench to make it just a little bit easier to store. You know, it's paper thin, but it is, you know, it's a plastic sheet. All right, the last couple items before we get to the paint that I bought, these are just kind of some extras, you know, some 3D parts here and some other modeling pieces. So this is Edward mesh, a steel mesh. You never know when that might come in handy for doing, you know, I've got an International Harvester big rig that I know there's some vents in the doors. If you open those up, you know, you might need a mesh for that. Or some of the older automobiles, 20s and 30s styles. You know, they had the inlet scoop on the, whatever that panel is right in front of the windshield to let fresh air into the cabin. So that's a good thing to have on hand for multiple uses, not just that. This next one, like I said, I have a International Harvester big rig in my stash, and I found these big rig seats. These come from Flying Lab Industries, and this particular set of seats has the folding armrest on it. So they also had a set with the armrests that were fixed in position, but I thought, well, you know, for the same price, I'll go ahead and get these. And then lastly, this is from White Tanks Hobbies, and these are in 1/25th scale. These are, I don't know how easy it's going to be to show up on there, but these are actually like cans, soda cans, beer cans, that kind of thing, right? Looks like there's even a couple of them that kind of look like they've been crushed. A few of them are done as an entire 6-pack, and then the others are individual pieces. But those will come in handy for dioramas or whatnot. Even, maybe just doing a pickup truck, you might have a soda or a beer can laying in the bed of the truck, just that little extra bit of detail to add to it. So finally, let me show you the paints I got. MCW Finishes had a booth there, and I love using their lacquer paints. I have a couple of their enamels. Personally, I like using the lacquers better. Just to me, they're easier to use. I don't have to worry about mixing ratios with hardener and clear and whatever. The lacquers spray right out of the bottle with no issues. I've never had a problem spraying them. They clean up easy. So I've probably already got a half a dozen or more bottles. But while I was there, I picked up some colors that caught my eye, and a couple things I just felt like I really needed to have. So first one is this Frost Blue Metallic Gloss Lacquer. And I think I will probably end up using that on my 63 Corvette when I get around to building it. I think that's a good color on that one. Next, this one was kind of pretty, and I think I haven't decided fully yet. I'm getting ready to work on a Chevy van, but I thought maybe this Honey Bronze Metallic Gloss Lacquer might be a good look on a van. So we got that. Next is Limelight Metallic Gloss Lacquer. Limelight, so it's a green, right? It's a little bit darker than one of the greens I have now from them. So another, who knows? I'm not real sure what I'll use it on, but green is my favorite color, and I liked the way that one looked. So, it'll be on the shelf for whenever I decide I need it or want to use it. And then I don't usually get into these too much, but I don't know, something about it said, yeah, go ahead and pick that up. This is a Cyan Purple Shift Gloss Lacquer. Must spray over black. So I kind of dig that. I don't know why. Normally that is not my thing, but there was just something about it. And he had, there were probably 4 or 5 different color shifts that he had. I think there was one that was more of a red and gold, and one that had more green to it. But this one kind of stood out to me, so we picked that up. I have no idea what I'm going to use that on, but I guarantee it's going to get used on some kind of hot rod. We'll figure that out at some point in time. So I just read that to you and said must go over black. So I picked up a bottle of the Gloss Black Lacquer to use that as a base for that color shift. And then lastly, he has a line of military paints as well for your tanks, your planes, your ships, whatever. And I hadn't really used any of his lacquers for those models. I mainly only have used them for the automotive stuff. But I did see that recently he came out with a bare metal gloss lacquer, for when you want to do aircraft to have a bare metal finish. So I thought, yeah, you know what? I like that paint. So let me pick up a bottle of that, and we'll use that on something coming up as well. I've got, out of my stash, I probably now have in the range of maybe 55 kits total, and roughly a third of those are aviation related kits. So, I'm going to do a little bit of everything on this channel at some point. It's mainly automotive right now, and then second would be aircraft, and then third and fourth is going to be, the little figures and whatever military armor I might have, and who knows what else from there. I was even very tempted to pick up a Gundam model, but I haven't done it yet. Looking for the right one, which, by the way, is also one of the themes for the 2027 Nationals, Gundam. And I think the specific part of that theme is well, I don't remember the wording they used, but it's basically the bad guys, the ones that are there to be shot up. So I don't know what that means in the Gundam world necessarily. I got to do a little research on that, but I've been tempted to build one anyway, so we'll see what happens. If you weren't able to make it to IPMS Nationals this year, you missed a good time. It was really fun. Of course, that is kind of a homecoming for me. I grew up right there near Fort Wayne. I haven't lived there since 1989, but it was nice to go back. I did run into some friends that I graduated high school with and met some other modelers that I've only known through the online presence, never met them face to face. Met a few of them, met a few new people, had a great time. I really had a great time. I could have spent a lot more money. My bank account is thankful that I did not. And now I got to try to find some overtime at work that I can pick up. Anyway, put it on your calendar for next year. Next year's Huntsville Nationals will be July 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th in Huntsville, Alabama. So if you can make it there any way possible, try to get there. I know that you can probably find more information about them on Facebook and definitely on the IPMS USA website. You'll be able to find out all kinds of information. I think hotel rooms will start opening up first part of February. And then I believe registration will begin first part of March. So you've got some time to think about it and get prepared for it. Until the next time, y'all, peace and love.